Namaste friends, my name is Neelkamal Tyagi, and in this spiritual talk we will look at who is a perfect living master and what are some of his characteristics. The topic of this talk actually is a perfect living master never judges his disciples. Friends, since childhood, when we are born into this world and we meet different people, we come across almost everybody as being judgmental of one trait or another of ours. It starts with our parents. It starts with them giving us their love and affection, but at the same time, them teaching us about the do's and don'ts, about the goods and bads in life. They teach us that every action has a consequence. So if we do the things that are considered as good by society, we are treated with respect. We are treated with dignity. We are treated with love in this world. That's what our parents teach us and our teachers in school teach us. And if we do something which is considered as a wrongdoing or a sin in other terms, then we are not treated so well by this society. In fact, we are subject to punishments. So if we go to our school and we have not completed our homework, for example, we receive a good scolding from our teachers. So there is a constant judgmental attitude that we come across in this world with almost everybody around us. Then when we grow up, there is this talk about falling in love, romance and whatnot. And we meet our partners and, we meet our partner with whom we want to spend our life. And in most cases, the relationship starts with a whole bunch of expectations. And as long as we meet those expectations, we are treated as someone who is deserving of the love of the partner. But the moment we cease to meet some of those expectations, something happens to the so-called love and it just disappears, it evaporates. And then there are quarrels and fights, and oftentimes the people end up getting separated or divorced. So what is this love, and how is it related to this attitude of being judgmental? Is it really true love that we consider from coming from our partners, for example, or from our teachers or from our parents? Somehow it seems that till the time we are meeting their expectations, we remain a deserving candidate for their so-called love. But the moment we stop meeting their expectations, the love just disappears. So is this truly permanent love? Is this truly true love? That's the question that arises in our mind. Indeed, this question normally does not even arise in our mind, simply because we have not been exposed to a kind of love which is superior to this kind of love that I just spoke about. A love in which there is no judging, a love where we are constantly receiving and there is no expectation to get anything from us. That kind of pure love where the person giving us that love is simply here to give it to us and does not want absolutely anything in return. So that kind of love, where do we actually find it? In the path of spirituality, there is description of a person whom we often refer to as satguru or a perfect living master. Now, there are so many different types of masters we come across in our life. Even teachers in our school and colleges are masters in their own way, because they are teaching us some things, right? Then we come across spiritual masters of different levels. There are masters of the physical body, like they teach us how to keep our body healthy. They teach us asanas, yoga, and a lot of other exercises, like physical trainers in the gym, they are also masters, right? They teach us how to keep our body fit. Then there are the energy healers, the people who are experts in dealing with Reiki and energy based sciences, and they help us to treat ourselves in a using energy, and they help us in opening up our different chakras in the body, and each chakra gives us different kinds of benefits. So these are masters of a different category. And then there are masters who have ascended to higher realms of the mind, and have reached up to the universal mind. So like the higher level of the mind. We call them satgurus or satgurus. But then there are masters who come from beyond time and space. And those are the masters that we refer to as perfect living masters or satgurus. Now the difference between these perfect living masters and masters of the lower realms, that is the realms of the mind, is that these masters don't come here to teach us something. They don't come here to do a give and take. They don't show us the path and then leave us so that we can walk that path ourselves. They don't do all that. They're not here for that purpose. Their purpose is to take us back to our true home, to our true source. What is that true source? The true source that we come from is a place that's beyond time and space. It is full of pure love, divine love, a love that is devoid of any kind of expectations. The law of give and take does not work in that place. In fact, there is this law of give and give in that place, as I often refer to it. Now, this kind of experience is not to be found in this world, because everybody here is coming into our life either to give us something, or to take something from us, or to teach us something, or to be taught something by us, depending on our karmic imbalance with that person. That person comes into our life to balance it out. But perfect living masters, they come into our life to pull us out of this cycle of life and death, of this karmic cycle, the cycle of give and take. When they come into our life, they do not judge us, because that's not their job. By judging somebody, we are basically helping run this creation. When we judge a person who is not performing optimally, and we give that person feedback, that person works on that feedback, and then he or she improves, and then he's able to do more productive work in this world. So in that way, it helps in efficient functioning of this world, right? But that's not the purpose of these perfect living masters. They do, however, end up helping. They don't do anything which kind of disrupts this, the functioning of this world. And they do, in fact, cooperate with the entities that are responsible for running this world. In fact, they command those entities in a manner that those entities are able to run this world properly, and they also help those entities out. But their main job is to cleanse the soul of all karmic imbalances and pay off their residual karmic balances to the lords of this world of time and space, and then take back those souls to their true source. Now, all of this may sound quite mythical and hypothetical until unless we have experienced these things ourselves. So the path of spirituality is a very practical path. It is not a path of blind faith. Nobody asks us to just start believing things and just start doing things. That's religion, and religion does that quite often. When you go to a religious place, there is often a deity or a certain representation of God or a God man that is often considered to be like something that you got to have faith towards, and people around you expect you to have faith, and if you don't show that faith, then you develop enemies also, and people don't like you in such places. But in the spiritual communities, the difference is that everything is based on your own personal experience. And the path of spirituality begins and ends with a person called as a perfect living master. It begins with us meeting a perfect living master. How does this person come into our life? He comes in response to a seeking in our own heart to know the ultimate truth, to know our true self, to awaken to the reality of our true self, which is pure love, timeless love, eternal love, love that does not have any expectations, love that only wants to give, only wants to serve, not serving our ego, but serving in the moment, serving the universe, serving the Lord, serving the people around us, serving the objects around us. So when that perfect living master comes into our life, he does not look at our sins, because if they start choosing people based on the number of sins they have done, they will not be able to choose anybody, because the number of sins that each one of us has done, if we include all of our past lives, they run into countless. It's a big number, like trillions would be small, right? It's a huge number, because there are infinite past births that the soul has taken, and there's a mountain of karmas that have been accumulated that are still to be fructified, right? So if they start looking at souls based on the sins that they have done, and then not choose the ones who are sinners, they will not be able to take anybody back from here. Instead of that, the masters explain to us, and all of what I'm telling you is as learned from perfect living masters such as Master Ishwarpuri Ji, Master Kripal Singh Ji, Master Thakur Singh Ji, and so many other masters about whom we read from books like the Guru Granth Sahib or the Bhagavad Gita. So these masters, when they come here, they burn this mountain of karmas of the soul, they accept the soul, and then they keep forgiving the soul. The new karma that the soul is accumulating based on the new actions that the person whom they accept as a disciple performs in this life, which are not perfect, and therefore there is some karmic imbalance. So they keep cleansing those karmas from time to time. This is why we often come across stories where for example, in the Indian scriptures, we read about Angulimal, right, who was initiated by Gautam Buddha. He was a criminal person who had murdered so many people, and he used to cut their fingers, and he made a garland out of their fingers, and he used to wear that garland. And it was his mission to gather a certain number of fingers of people. And when he met Gautam Buddha, who was a perfect living master, he changed, his life changed. So if Gautam Buddha had not accepted him by looking at his sins in the present birth, not even in his past births, only in his present birth there were so many sins that no sane person would accept him as a disciple. But Gautam Buddha accepted him, right? So similarly, when these perfect living masters, they come into our life, they accept us wholeheartedly. They give us their love without any disparity. And so the pictures you see behind me on the wall, these are perfect living masters. So Master Ishwarpuri Ji, who was my master, who initiated me on the path of spirituality, and then his master, the great master Huzur Maharaj Baba Sawan Singh Ji, whose service our master kept doing all his life, and whose teachings he kept promoting and teaching to other initiates of his, like myself and many others like me. So the exact taste that we get from the love that we receive from these masters cannot be explained. It is like if somebody eats a piece of sweet, he cannot explain what that taste is like to another person, right? He can try to explain it, but he cannot exactly explain that taste to the other person. The other person has to eat that sweet in order to absolutely know how it tastes like. So that's the nature of some of the love that we get from these masters. And it is a divine blessing when these masters come into our life It is a divine event. It indicates that our time to return back to our true source has arrived, and it is not too far. It is said that when perfect living masters come into a person's life and they initiate that person, it takes at max 4 more births before the person returns to his true, his soul returns to its true source. In most cases, it returns within the very first or second birth, but in extreme cases, if there are extreme karmas that the person keeps doing and does not listen to the master at all, then it can take up to a maximum of 4 births. And all of these things that I am telling you are basically what I have learned or heard from my perfect living master, Ishwar Puriji. So with that, I come to the end of this talk, and I hope I was able to convey some clarity regarding this aspect of perfect living masters, where they do not judge, they simply give, they simply love, and in response to their love, we are able to do devotion to them. It is only when we receive love from a master that we become truly willing to devote ourselves to those masters. The mind does not know, our mind does not know how to give. The mind knows how to expect. It is selfish. It wants. It will not do anything unless it sees a return on investment. Anything that the mind wants to do, first it will start thinking about the result. It will start thinking about the benefits. Why should I do this? What is the benefit to me? That's how the mind thinks. But when it comes to us, our true self, which is the soul, which is timeless, which is pure love, that's not how we operate. We operate with the intention of giving. And that's our true form, which is same as the true form of the master and same as the true form of God. With that, I come to the end of this spiritual talk. Thank you so much for listening to me.